What up, y'all? We are talking all things Hard to Kill, Cora J, NXT, and all that good stuff. If I could find the video here, coming up next.
What's up, everybody? It's the hottest flame, Kiera Hogan, period, and you're watching Women's Wrestling Talk.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What's up, y'all? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. I am not alone. Guess who is in the building? The professor himself. What's good?
Hey, TK, how are you?
I am good. I'm good. Life is lifing, but here we are in 2024.
Here we are. And life is lifing, and the wrestling business keeps on moving. And so that makes it for fun times because there's so much to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Are we going to just talk about what was going on over the weekend? So many different shows that weren't WWE related, which you mentioned on Friday. And
Yes.
also happy post MLK Day too, by the way.
Correct. Yeah, that's probably a great starting point for those who don't remember. Saturday might have been our first super day of 2024 in the world of pro wrestling because we had technically 4 shows that happened, and none of them were WWE. So the NWA made its return with some shows in Florida with their first set of tapings for the CW. Which is wild. They're going to actually be on the CW app, not the TV station, but the app. And so they're taping some new content for that. Then, of course, you had AEW, which had their normal Collision and Battle of the Belts. And then we had a new show from New Japan, Battle in the Valley, and, of course, TNA's Hard to Kill. So a lot of people were talking about TNA's Hard to Kill, which shout out to them. It's their first show under the new TNA umbrella. And I've got nothing but props for them. TK, you understand, anytime a company does a rebrand, it is very difficult to keep people moving on the train and getting them excited about the rebrand. But ever since Impact announced that they were going to TNA again, people have just been on fire about this. And so they brought their premium live event to the Palms in Las Vegas this Saturday. And there was a lot of news coming from it, including a brand new world champion. Moose wins the TNA world title, defeating Alex Shelley, which I guess it's safe to say a lot of the discussion had been so much around the Knockouts Championship match that I don't know how many people were actually talking about the world title match coming into this premium live event. But congratulations to Moose. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Speaking of the Knockouts Championship, everybody was talking about what would happen between Jordan Grace and, of course, the incumbent Knockouts champion, that being Trinity. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got a new Knockouts world champion. Jordan Grace wins the title. Everybody thought they knew what that meant, but not necessarily. We'll get into that a little bit later. Also, on the women's side, we had new Knockouts tag team champions as we saw the return of DK. DK is back before they kind of shed their DK personas for the last year or so. But they're back as DK, coming back from the undead realm. And they went on to defeat MK Ultra to once again become Knockouts World Tag Team Champions. So those are the major title changes that took place, along with a lot of great action. Then there were the debuts and surprises, and the big one.
A lot of them.
So many of them. The big one everyone's talking about happened at the end of the show, where one Nick Nemeth, the artist formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, made his way to interrupt the championship celebration of Moose. Then he went on, took off his shirt to reveal that shirt that you see there that shows that he is signed to TNA, which is a major coup, all things considered. And then they had talked about worlds colliding and someone surprising them. It turned out to be this young lady. Now, no, sorry, that's not Tony Storm, folks. That is
Oh my
Ash.
God, people lost their stuff with that. With
Yes, they did. That is Ash by Elegance, the artist formerly known as Dana Brooke. And so she showed up with this new name, this new look for her, but it doesn't seem to be a new look right now in the space of women's wrestling. Got a lot of people talking. I'm curious, what did you think of the return of TNA at Hard to Kill?
one thing, it's so funny with like going back to one with Nick, because remember when he signed, was that like the 3-year deal or something like that, or maybe the 5-year deal with WWE? And it
Yeah.
was kind of one of those things where it wasn't, it was like he could still do the comedy, he doesn't have to wrestle as much, and it just seemed like he was on like the back end of his career. Like he really, like, you know,
Yes.
this wrestling thing is great. I've been doing it for a while. I'm obviously a pro, all the things, and you know, I'm ready to do the entertainment thing because he can
Yeah.
definitely get in Hollywood. He has that like vibe about him. So it's interesting that, you know, after being let go, which I think is more, it was more of a mutual thing, that he goes and signs with Impact, which the fact that, and you know, this is kind of going into the whole theory with everybody with the PLEs, which is, you
Yes.
know, WWE started that, and now TNA has now adopted that. If you look at the graphics, if you look at the palms, if you look just how they presented their stuff, even down to the end and new champion graphics, like there's so many different things that are happening in that. So I find it interesting. Like I've said on so many different occasions where it's like, I wish I could be a fly on the wall for the negotiations and the
Yeah.
stories as to how we got to this point, because there had to obviously be a car. Like, I don't think Nick was like, hey, I want to wrestle for you guys. Like something had to transpire for us to get to this point.
Well, there's a couple of things. First, one of the things that I noticed, if you just watched any of the clips, there was an immediate vibe. If you go back, which by the way, that clip of Nick Nemeth appearing in TNA, literally within 24 hours had 1 million views on YouTube, which is a massive number in the TNA world. I mean, massive number. One of the things that I noticed immediately in looking at it was, oh my God, optically and vibe-wise, this feels like black and gold NXT. This feels like 2018, 2019 NXT. I mean, if you go back and look at it, the ropes are yellow with that dark black background, the vibe of just fans going crazy. The energy was nuts. I mean, even the way that he debuted was very NXT-esque. Like you have to wait till the end of TakeOver before something mammoth happens. And that's when Nick Nemeth shows up. So it really was one of those kinds of nights for TNA. In terms of Nick signing with TNA, what I thought was also interesting was the week before him appearing at Wrestle Kingdom in New Japan. And I thought to myself, boy, this is interesting. And of course, working with TNA allows you the opportunity to do several other things. And so I think he may, you know, where we thought he might have been on the end of his career, you know, one thing that most don't remember is he never wrestled on the indies. His entire career was WWE. It started with the Spirit Squad, and then, you know, it just morphed from there into the Dolph Ziggler character. So him getting the opportunity to work the indies in 2024 is something he's never experienced before. And now he gets to go and write his ticket, and he's involved in a lot of upcoming matches. There's one, I mean, we could technically go to it. He's already announced that he's got a match coming as part of GCW going against Matt Cardona, which the concept of that, I mean, there was a time that match would have just been considered, you know, fodder on WWE. Now these two guys are headlining something in 2024, both of them at the top of their game. They can ask for whatever they want in the indies. So it's amazing to see that they have this opportunity to be a part of the coldest winter as part of GCW in just a couple of weeks in February. Matter of fact, I believe that is the night before NXT Vengeance Day. So that is pretty awesome. Again, the things that Nick Nemeth is able to do. So signing with TNA gives him the opportunity to still do these dates. I've seen other indie dates that are coming for him. So yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing, and it's a resurgence, I think, for his career. And I was going to ask this later, but since we're talking about it, obviously there's the news out there about Mustafa Ali, who made his presence known during Battle in the Valley and challenging Takahashi. And so the question that I have, and I'm trying to find the right words for it, I think these are them. In hindsight, could that mass release that happened shortly after the WWE's sale to Endeavor, in hindsight, could that actually have been a good thing for the wrestling business?
Well, before we answer that, we can definitely talk about, something that I guess is a good thing in the wrestling business. I don't even know if this is really a great segue, but he's, coming back from the streets, which I guess is a good thing for the wrestling business. That he said is in the building. What's good?
You tried there. It was.
I mean, I tried.
It's kind of rocky. You're trying to like tie it in, and
Yeah, I had it, but it's just like there's just a lot of things happening. So I had it, but then you got what I'm saying.
Just say you stuck the landing. You stuck the landing. It was a bumpy ride, a lot of turbulence, but you stuck the landing.
There it is. So with that being said, the massive I think in life beyond wrestling, it's cyclical, meaning that things happen, and it's really like if you look at, for instance, Matt Cardona, right? He was doing like what he was doing on YouTube was way before anybody else, right?
Yeah.
If WWE actually bought into that, we would have a different Matt Cardona right now.
Sure.
We wouldn't even have, what I'm saying? So I think, it's all, everything with life is the building blocks and the decisions we make based off of the things that happen. With WWE letting go that amount of people, there's definitely, that line, which I really hate. It's just business. It is just business. Now it's up to the people involved who got affected by that, is like what their next thing is. Are you going to sit down and wallow? Are you going to recreate yourself? In the era we are in right now, it's like, there's so many different promotions, there's social media, there's so many aspects that we can do. So I think provided provided the wrestlers who got let go wasn't self-sabotage and it was just more, it's a business thing, I feel like WWE is always going to be have an open door policy to most individuals. So I think in them letting them go is just kind of like, okay, well, this is what we have to do right now, but there's no telling whether they can come back or not, provided they had the good locker room etiquette, et cetera, et cetera. So I mean, but I don't think they had a complete game plan. I don't think anybody. I don't think when you do like a layoff, you're like, okay, well, this is probably what this wrestler is going to do. I just because again, then it ends up as like it's just business. Like when they were doing that massive layoff, and I was watching to see if certain individuals were still going to be there for my personal gain as far as projects. It's like it's just business. There's whole departments that got let go. Right. So it's just I don't think they're not thinking about them. They're thinking about the bottom line. It's always when you're doing firing, it's always the money.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those hindsight types of things. Not that they necessarily said we're going to release these people for the betterment of the business, but I do think that those releases have given people an opportunity in this environment to help better the business, because we saw Saturday night alone, obviously you're talking Nick Nemeth, Ash by Elegance, the grizzled young veterans. And then you also had
Cedric?
would you like to have
but like but come on, man. We're not gonna just like gloss over that. Ash by Elegance, like this like lengthy name. I was very shocked that was the name choice there. I would love to know if there's any history behind that you guys can educate me on.
I don't have the tea on that one.
I mean, she did it. She just did an interview with Ring the Bell, so maybe she's going to talk about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping there is a reason behind that, because she could have been like Ash, or there could have been other things, but there I'm sure there's a
Asha,
reason.
something, but like it's just. I hope it goes with the character well. Let's just leave it at that. Let's leave my personal
Shade.
chuckles aside. I hope that it goes with the character well. But to Professor's point, like those releases, I don't feel like were personal business side things like that. I think for some of those releases, it's to the betterment of that talent. A lot of those talents get to showcase themselves, and it speaks to the booking that's going on. Like I think Dalla alone tweeted out today that he has more appearances and more buzz than he ever worked for WWE. So like these people get to have way more face time just off their own merit. And then there's going to be a lot of companies that want to pull them in. They can kind of say, hey, here's my price. Here's my price to come elevate your brand. And we know how the old saying goes, like the door is always open usually with the big company.
Right. Yeah, and shout out to everybody in the chat. You've got Boza in there, Shadow Ranger, who says you're gonna have to watch Impact to find out what it means. I'll say that it stands out. You'll never forget that name. Let's see. Boza says it's a ripoff.
What do you mean by that, Shadow Ranger?
She has her own Luther, played by social media reporter George Eisman. Here's the thing. Before I want to call anything a ripoff, I mean, I guess we have to kind of see what all of this, it plays out to be. Similar looks don't necessarily mean similar characters. I mean, this is not, this is going to be a dated reference, but some people will get it. This is not the Road Warriors and almost every other team who was a big team in the 80s and 90s, right? So it's not that. We haven't heard her say anything. Now, if she does a whole, black and white, or, acting like she's a movie star kind of thing, then we can talk about this being a ripoff. But similar looks, I don't know that that's fair.
I mean,
I wouldn't even say their looks are similar. I think it's just people looking at the way the hair was kind of teased or whatever, and then the fur.
Like
but it's like
that's like a 1920s reference. So now, are you gonna say that Toni Storm ripped off Marilyn Monroe? Like, I mean, we can definitely go into that thing. Like, I think what people don't realize is that everything in entertainment and also in life, there's not too many variations. I mean, if you look at Star Wars, Harry Potter, and so many other shows, they're based off Jesus' story. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you look at others, like if you look at a lot of different things, they're just a different narrative of one main thing. So like, are we really saying that this is a complete ripoff? Like, no, like that look is a very iconic look. And you can trade, and Toni Storm did mention, and even Tony Khan during the media scrum, I forgot which one it was last year, mentioned that, Toni Storm was watching a lot of different, old videos and stuff like that, and pulling from that. So now is she ripping off those people, or is she taking those and putting that together to make the Toni Storm character that we have now? So it's like when people start kind of going in that direction, it's just kind of like nothing's new. Nothing is new.
Rip-off's a strong word. It's better to say things were influenced by.
Yeah. And I think that that's important because, to the point that TK made, I mean, I think about a Stone Cold Steve Austin who talks about how he was influenced to come up with the concept of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, there are so many influences that happen with this kind of thing. So let's kind of watch it play out first. But I will say, much to a point that I think Shadow Ranger made, Ash by Elegance is certainly a unique name. And once we figure out what it means and how often it'll be used, we'll see what happens. The interesting thing that I think that Dana Brooke had to deal with is, how do I establish myself as not being Dana Brooke? And I think what's tough when you come out of a WWE space where the world came to know who you are, and you have to come in with a different persona and a different name, likely, how do you do it to stand out? Like, truth be told, you had to almost kind of really take a good look at her to see that it was her.
Mm-hmm.
because she does look significantly different
Mm-hmm.
than she did in the WWE. So there's that. And again, some folks like Nick Nemeth, obviously, is just a name change, or Adam Copeland is a name change, but we all know who they are. And I think what they did previously stood so strong that we look at this as, okay, this is a continuance with an AJ Francis, with an Ash by Elegance. This is an opportunity for them to write that kind of chapter, the chapter that says, this is what you'll know me by, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to what you saw in WWE.
I mean, I'm for it, and yeah, I feel like Dana Brooke in WWE, she didn't quite get, I think, everything that she hoped for as far as wrestling wise. And, we all know that TNA allows, in particular for the women, to kind of express themselves in different ways.
Yes.
So I think this is going to be a really great playing ground for her, where she can be a different person. Because also, too, I wonder how, and, obviously we know TNA allows you to go to different promotions and do your thing, but she also has the, I forgot what account it was, the account that Kane really likes, the Brand Army account
Oh,
or whatever it is. Like, she also
one of
has that
those.
going on. So I don't know if she still has it going on, but there's maybe there's a separation of those two entities where it's like, this is the
Oh,
business side and this is the wrestling side.
I see what
So
you're
it's
saying.
just like, The Rock, you have The Rock. People only call him The Rock if it's wrestling. Entertainment wise, majority of people call him DJ.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, you kind of, and it's the same thing for me. I have, depending on what name you call me, I know which part of my life you're from. So, it's just, maybe that's what she's really trying to establish. Y'all looking at me like I am part of the CIA, and I'm not. And there's reasons for everything. So
I just like how you put yourself in separate buckets. People can tell you
oh
apart
yeah,
by
for
what
sure.
part of your life that you're from.
Oh yeah.
I can dive all into that, but I'm gonna let the comments speak for themselves.
Look, if you know me, you know me. You know me by a certain way. If you know me by different, then I know how to interact with you. It's just like how many people I have 3 different numbers. Only certain people actually have the real number. So when it comes time and I hit where I need to hit, the number, one number that you might have will just go directly to the assistant, and I don't know what to tell you. It depends on what you tell her. So yeah.
You've just given me so much ammo, but I'm gonna
Ammo,
I'm
ammo
gonna
to
save
live
the time
to live a
today.
better life, to aspire to be not everybody can't connect with you. That's
I don't
ammo. Is that
know.
an
I don't know.
inspiration?
I
Or
don't
are
need
you
trap
gonna rip
phones.
that off?
I don't need a trap phone.
Oh, everybody needs a Google number.
This has gotten very interesting already. So also Saturday night, there was a great event from New Japan called Battle in the Valley. And I really want to focus on the 2 women's matches that happened there. Obviously, this is women's wrestling talk. But one of the reasons why I want to focus on those 2 matches is because we have been over time very critical of New Japan and their treatment of women's wrestling over the last year. Particularly just last week, we talked about how the IWGP Women's Championship was featured at Wrestle Kingdom 17, but this year at Wrestle Kingdom 18, it was nowhere to be found except on a pre-show that was not aired. So we get to Battle in the Valley, and we have not 1 but 2 women's matches. The first one was in the pre-show, Stephanie Vakir against Viva Van in what was a banger. I mean, a banger. So you guys have to go back and check that out. It was absolutely amazing. The match that made it onto the main card was for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship as Trish Adora challenged Julia. And that match was fire as well. Personally, I was really excited to see that the infantry, they were there to accompany Trish for her match, which I thought was a big deal. And, when you're talking about New Japan, one of the things that's kind of wild is you don't really know how the New Japan crowd, stateside or not, will respond to people either from AEW or Ring of Honor, but it was very, very clear that this New Japan crowd in San Jose knew who Trish Adora was. They knew who the infantry was. They cheered like crazy. And these two put on an incredible match. This match reminded a lot of people why Trish Adora was a world champion, the Pan-African world champion for over 1,600 days. She gets it done. And she had an amazing showing against Julia. Julia retained and is still your strong open weight champion. But I'll tell you, I like seeing Trish Adora in this setting, and I'm hoping that we'll get to see more of her out in New Japan. Of course, she was part of the New Japan dojo and the like. So some real great opportunities. And I do wonder what this means in terms of New Japan's support for women's wrestling.
So shout out to Shadow Ranger. He's saying the same TK limit how many people, how many ways I can be connected. I agree with that. And then also shout out to Mercedes and Bailey who showed their support to Trinity at Hard to Kill. And yes. I'm wondering, did you guys see the picture? Both Bailey and Mercedes posted pictures with Cat Williams.
Yes,
did he go and see Hard to Kill, or did he have a show in Vegas? So he
probably had a show in Vegas.
Okay.
That seems to make a lot more sense. And which I think is really cool. I think that's really, really cool. But yeah, a big deal certainly for Bailey and Mercedes to be at Hard to Kill. And I just think, again, you think about it, roughly this time last year, how Mercedes and Trinity made the trip over to Japan to support Mercedes and her debut at Wrestle Kingdom. I just think it's all really, really awesome. Really, really awesome to see these women supporting each other in the way that they do. With that said, back to this New Japan Battle in the Valley, both of these matches went super hard.
Mm-hmm.
They went super hard. And I hope that New Japan will continue this level of commitment to women's wrestling, because I think this type of women's wrestling showcased on their brand could really do a lot of things.
I definitely agree with that. With that being said, I mean, I don't know, like with so many promotions that happened over the weekend, and then seeing Mercedes and Bailey support Trin in Vegas, and then seeing what happened in San Jose, there's still a lot of unanswered questions. I mean, we had a huge discussion last week as far as where would Trinity go, and then what happened after she lost the title was like she wants the rematch, and TNA and Trin didn't say anything about well, that's the end, this is the end of her contract, stuff like that, which
Correct.
leads to definitely seeing that phase of her trying to get it back, and then also having matches with other people while she's not champion and seeing what that looks like. So there's a lot of different things that are happening, and this is kind of one of those things where it's great to have those conversations, but then there's a point where it gets to be too much, meaning that you get so deep in the weeds as far as talking about where's Trinity gonna go, and is Mercedes gonna be signed here, and this is what the tea leaves are saying, or this one person's cousin who's a friend with a custodian who was mopping up the place in the last arena that WWE was at said this. It's just like sometimes it's just good to just enjoy it and then see how the wrestlers play it out in social media if they do, and then continue enjoying wrestling.
Well, to that point, one of the things that we can say for sure is that this Friday, Trinity will be back in an Impact ring taking on Giselle Shaw. And so that will be exciting to see. She's also being promoted for a meet and greet that's happening during the weekend as well. So they're right now and then of course, as it was mentioned, she talked about the rematch that she wants. So as of right now, there are no indicators from anybody officially, TNA or Trinity, that she's going anywhere, which is cool. Personally, I want to see her ride the course and do what it is that she's doing. Again, and I said this before, for all of those who said that her contract was running out and, all the things that people like to do, two things to remember. One, this time last year, we were talking about Trinity, whether or not she'd be at the Royal Rumble. because at this point she hadn't signed anywhere, and we thought she had to come in at number 30. This is the right thing to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that silently TNA has found a way to, if her contract is up, I hope they found a way to re-sign her. I want to see Trinity in this iteration of TNA get a chance to do what she does and chase the women's championship. I think that'd be really dope. Just my 2 cents. But one thing for sure is, at least certainly through this week, Trinity is very much still a part of TNA.
I can't. It's what were you thinking, said? Like I feel like it's a good play, and seeing how she operates not being the champion. Like I think it was a good play to make her the champion, given who she is. People know who she is. The timing, and I don't even know if they planned out the timing. If they did, they're a genius. The timing of everything, because you had a whole swath of people who came to Impact at the time because of Trinity.
Right.
And then Trinity was champion. And now you have TNA. And now, you have what seems like this rebrand is like, it's kind of like there's a difference of, like, you have a house, right? There's a difference when you have like a huge amount of money where you can decorate the house like the way you want to decorate it, versus this is my budget. It's gonna smack, but it's not gonna smack like how I really want to. And this iteration of TNA is like it seems like they have an unlimited budget, but they're still operating within their brand. It's not like how at sometimes AEW is, definitely trying to compete with WWE. TNA is like, nah, this is TNA. This is who we are. We've been here for a minute. This is our goal. This is what we're going to do. And that's what even makes it more appeasing. So the timing of everything, and then seeing how Trin's reign as not being the champion plays out, might be really great for storylines, especially in the women's division.
Yeah, the chase is always more fun after a champion loses the title, but it's just really early. I mean, it's only Wednesday. We know it's Royal Rumble season. I'm not predicting anything. It's just, you're right. The timing of everything is like very peculiar. So I can't call it. If she stays in Impact, dope. If the Endeavor partnership means a lot more than meets the eye, I mean, there's not many names announced for either Royal Rumble yet. Also, shout out to Trin and Jim on their 10-year anniversary. I believe I just saw that post recently. I don't know. The timing just feels very peculiar of a lot of things, and this is a good space to be in, because element of surprise is something that is desperately missing in professional wrestling right now. So I'm happy that I don't know anything. I'm happy that I can't speculate on what's to come.
Yep.
That's what makes wrestling. That's what makes because you have different types of fans, and you can be whatever fan you are. But I agree with you. I prefer, like, you can speculate, but then the swerves are always great. Yes. Or being in a match where it's just like, okay, well, this is possibly what's going to happen, but what's going to happen next? Or not even knowing, who's going to win the match. Like, those are all great places to be, opposed to, again, doing all the stuff, reading all the dirt sheets, and knowing, like, I'm a nosy person too. I also like to know what's going to happen in the end, but this is what makes wrestling as an adult better to me, not knowing what's the next play. It's supposed to be entertainment. That's why it's called sports entertainment. And also shout out to cousin Ron's building.
We're in a space where America wanted Jinder Mahal to win the championship 2 days ago. Like,
this is true. This is very true.
Everybody wanted Jinder to win, which is crazy.
Also, to TNA's credit, Hard to Kill is the biggest gate that they've had in the last 10 years. That should tell you everything you need to know about where TNA is right now. They had to open up more seats for this particular show, which I think is amazing. So this is a good time to be a part of TNA. And I think they are doing great things. They're not overdoing it. Like, I think it would be a mistake for them to go, we're going to go live every Thursday. No. Keep the schedule you're on. You have managed to do great things. Take more money and use it wisely. but they've got some real opportunities ahead of them. So congratulations to TNA.
Definitely congratulations to them. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's a lot of great things are coming through the pipe. What else we got?
Well, from that, we move to my favorite 2 hours of television, which is NXT. And we start with a little sad news for NXT. Cora Jade, over the weekend, was involved at a house show where she suffered a pretty serious injury. She tore her ACL, and it was announced last night, that she may be out for the next year. And so it's kind of sad because if you think about it, I believe it was Deadline just in December where she had just returned to NXT following the women's title match. And so not even a full month later, when it certainly seemed like she was one of the odds-on favorites to become number one contender for the women's title, she is out for close to a year. So thoughts and prayers and well wishes are with Cora Jade for a speedy recovery. This is definitely a bit of a blow. The flip side, though, as we have seen, is there are many, many people in the pipeline in the women's division, and we got a chance to see that last night as we saw the 20-woman over-the-top rope battle royal to determine the new number one contender for the NXT Women's Championship. And congratulations to former NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez, who walked away as the winner of this unique battle royal that once it got down to the final four women, it became a fatal four-way match. Very creative. And the winner is Roxanne Perez. She will get a title shot at NXT Vengeance Day.
I mean, well, and this is, the fact she's like, I don't think she's even turned 20 yet. This is, NXT. Could you imagine if, TNA and WWE are in some type of, I don't think the right word is partnership, but more of an open door policy, a backdoor open door policy, meaning that there's a transition between, people who are going to be let go and, people like you can kind of go a little weave back and forth how Impact does when people go to WWE. This feels like they're always welcome back to Impact. Like, could you imagine that there's some type of, partnership where, for instance, you have the university students coming into the PC, they debut on NXT, but they're not quite there yet, or they don't quite fit there yet. And, there's an agreement where they can go to TNA and they could be there for 2-3 years and, really find out who they are and then eventually make their way back to WWE. Like that's an amazing, I don't know that's what's happening, but it seems like there's just an unspoken, thing that's happening between TNA and WWE.
Yeah, there's some sort of relationship. I mean, even before this, WWE had purchased the rights to the TNA library, and they were using that, for their documentaries and all kinds of things, which is cool. So there's always been seemingly a good relationship between the two companies. It'll probably be a good period of time before we know what the actual current working relationship is between the two of them. But I wouldn't doubt that there's some sort of gentle person's handshake, at least.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. The gentle person versus, oh, look at you being, up to date and PC.
How about that?
How about that? He said in the streets.
Well, first thing, speedy recovery to Cora Jade. You never want to hear stuff like that. But on the flip side, she's absolutely being going to be helped by the best doctors in the world. If you're paying attention to social media, I think I saw Charlotte Flair doing some type of leg press with body weight today, just 12 days post-op, which is crazy to think when you really look at how severe her injury was. It wasn't just an ACL tear, it was way more. So she'll have the best doctors, best rehab technicians in the world. So speedy recovery for her. I really did enjoy this main event last night. I enjoyed it. It was done very well. I thought they did excellent with making Kiana James look strong and have her moments throughout the entire match. Roxanne, winning shouldn't surprise anybody. It gives Lyra a more reputable former champion the face on this journey of being champion. However, I really think they could have pulled the trigger on Kiana there. Kehlani also looked really good in the match. Didn't like the ending per se, because if Izzy Dame pulls out Kiana, but you didn't do enough to stop the pinfall, I didn't understand that. That didn't make sense to me. Also, Mr. Michaels, Higginbottom, my guy. What are we doing with Lola? Why is the breakout tournament winner trying to compete for a number one contendership match? Where's the correlation there? You could have done that split some other way. I feel like you're wasting my time, Sean. I feel like you're wasting my time. You're wasting everybody else's time. I think we gotta like. Here we go.
No, you're listening. You're listening.
Oh,
That's about to pound the streets.
I feel we gotta reel this in with Lola. We gotta add some layers to the character. We gotta stop doing so many hip pumps, and we gotta like let her have time on the mic. We gotta cut it out. It's getting repetitive and it's falling to a space of I'm uncomfortable on television, so I'm just gonna do this real quick.
Well, maybe she is uncomfortable. Maybe she is.
That's where I feel like some of her characters should dive into, and I hate that I'm using the evil phone or trope, but like dive into a little bit of what Xia Li does as a fighter, as a more of a striker, and have some of those elements show up a little bit more menacing.
Well,
so we get her to the title shot.
As one who is not officially a member of Lola's town, I don't remember what it's called, Vice City. I'm not I don't have a membership there. I don't have a residence there, so I can kind of look at the town a little bit differently. I feel like this is a great way to bring development in terms of character to Lola Vice. We kind of started seeing the seeds planted of a potential breakup between these two. And so I think doing this right now keeps her away from the title picture, gives us something to be invested in with her, and of course with La Madrina. I hope that it sends La Madrina to deal with, Legado del Fantasma and reunite her with Santos, because that makes sense. And again, I think what this is saying is they are prepping Lola so that when she does cash in, it's not a wasted cash in. So I appreciate that. The cash-ins in the past, save Roxanne Perez, have been all losses, Roxanne and Carmelo. Other than that, the winners had lost and when they went to have their title matches. So seeing Obafemi, who is absolutely undeniable, win last week, and then them saving this for her, who knows? What if they're setting up a cash-in for Stand and Deliver? Like, you'd go crazy if that happens in Philly for her. I think that,
Yes,
you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I would.
So I'm like, I'm trusting the process.
We like cake over here.
Moose told us to trust the system, so I'll trust the system. And I want to see how this plays out, because
I guess what I'm trying to figure out, who's in the wrong in that rivalry? Like, who's
that's a great question.
heel, who's the quote unquote babyface? Because she was planting all the seeds of, hey, this is our breakout tournament, blah blah. She gets eliminated from the battle royal, and it's like, well, who are you supposed to root for here? They're both still on the same playing field, which is why Lola being in the match didn't make sense off top. That's my biggest gripe. I just feel like they could have went to the separation a little bit differently than they did. But you're right. They do have to allow her character develop, because right now it's kind of Lyra's time, and she doesn't belong in that space at the top of the card just yet.
Not yet.
What would you do when or if Lola wins, Cedric? Like, what does the life of like the mayor? What does that look like?
It's a good question. I'd probably get my favorite shot glass and one or two shot glasses. I'd pour a couple shots of the finest tequila that I own and just sip slow. Throw on a little suavecito, if you're familiar with that song, and just maybe hit a little sauce in the room, depending on or wherever I'm at. You know but that's just part A of that journey. There'll be a lot more, but
Okay.
I figured the first show back he'll be full bow tie, might even be a 3-piece suit. I mean, he will show up as the mayor. Like he will be on full mayoral duties at that particular point. I'm pretty sure of that.
I do promise more dress ups in 24. That'll be a
I thought that
resolution
was
of
going to
mine.
be every show. Like you started the first show with the dress up. I thought it was going to be every show, and here you are. You're wearing a red t-shirt.
So let me speak
Limited
to
timing.
Comment
Limited
there.
timing.
Okay.
Boza's comment says, if Lola doesn't belong in the title hunt right now, why did she get the contract? Other women could have benefited. We probably could make the same argument about one Damian Priest, right? He's been holding on to that contract now for months. Money in the Bank was July. So here we are easily 6 months later, and there's not been a cash in. I don't think that doesn't mean that he's not a title contender. I think you tell the story, and here's the challenge with these cash-ins. If you do it too soon, you lose the suspense. Like, you almost have to get us to a point where we forget that they have this, and then you hit us with it. The Obafemi one was shocking because it was so fast. That was the shock to it. But there was also no denying Obafemi, he's got that thing, man. He's got the it factor. As for Lola, it's not that she doesn't have the it factor, but I think there were also multiple things working. We've got a Lyra Valkyria who, obviously took the strap off of Becky Lynch, which, by the way, I feel like, and this, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but the women's title has been needing stability ever since Mandy Rose lost the title. And that's been well over a year. So we're just getting back to a place of stability for the women's title with a Lyra Valkyria. So I don't think there's time, or I don't think now would be the right time for somebody to cash in. The flip side is for the NXT North American Championship, that title, 2 of the last 3 champions were from the main roster. And I know people in this chat were very upset that main roster people had NXT titles. So to me, it served as a great opportunity to get the championship back to an NXT competitor, which would free Dragon Lee up to do what he's doing on SmackDown, since he got the call up anyway. So I think we've got different scenarios at work here. I think, if anything, what the contract does for Lola is it says, hey, we've got our eye on you and we're letting the whole world know.
Yeah. The contracts have been looked at as a lotto ticket for far too long. And the benefit of having people hold it for a while is you get to see their character change and develop over time and almost create their character on the fly. You got to go back a little bit of time, and probably the best briefcase holder that created their character was Carmella. That's how the whole Mella is money theme came along. And when she finally cashed in, it was a big moment. But she held that briefcase for so long, it kind of helped create her entire persona. So let's hope that's what they do with Lola, and we don't have the early cash. Let's hope they do that with Priest, where it becomes such a big moment on a monumental stage that we're never going to forget it, because he has been teasing the cash-ins for so long. That's what you want. That's the goal of Money in the Bank. Otherwise, if you cash in, I hate same day cash-ins. If you do it too soon, then you run the risk of that person not having staying power as a champion.
Right.
That's like words of advice just in dating too.
I don't know how to tie that in. I don't know how to tie that in. This goes back to last week's conversation, but
which one? The one off the show or the one during the show?
During the show, but I don't know. You gotta tap into the mind of Big Money TK and each phone that she has, and the box of people she has in each phone. You know.
But I have a good team.
Oh yes. So the other major piece of women's news that happened last night is, of course, with the announcement of Cora Jade off TV. We were introduced to a young lady named Ren Sinclair. who happens to be the artist formerly known as Maddie Renkowski. And she took Cora Jade's place in the Battle Royal. What a unique entrance into NXT television. And she ends up eliminating Lash Legend. So Ren Sinclair's name is on the map. And what a unique way to introduce her into NXT. Again, I think WWE in general is being very, very wise with how they're introducing people, not taking a cookie cutter approach. Everybody's not getting the massive vignette. Some people are just kind of slipping in and we go, oh, wait, wow, they're here. So shout out to the former Maddie Renkowski, who did really, really well in the Battle Royal last night. I think she got down to what, top 6, top 8, somewhere in there. So that's
I think you're right with 6. I think it was 6.
Yeah.
I think she's gonna do really well. I think she tried out maybe 2 times, if not. We've had her on the show before. I think she's gonna do really well in WWE, and I do agree with you as far as how WWE brings in people. However, there was one point where you see like certain people, I always go like to Bianca, for instance. You could see, okay, well, they already have a trajectory for her. But then some people, it felt back in the day that they just didn't know what they were going to do. Whereas now it's like, whether they do a full out roll out the red carpet like for a Jade, or they have Maddie come in how she did, there's still a plan for everybody, which means that there's a story for everybody. And that's a really great place to be in where we are now, even to the point of, from NXT going to the main roster. Like there's a storyline in the arc versus, 5-6 years ago in the Vince era, I guess we can call it, where it was just kind of like, I don't know, y'all know I'm terrible for my analogies, but it's almost like the going from Canada to the US, but you're still on the same continent. But now it's just a different, it's a different country. It's like, nah, we're still in North America. Like it's like, why do you have to change the person's name? Why do you have to go, this whole extra mile when you can create the character and do a smooth transition? But here we are. Shout to Barry Monkey and MDB 999.
I've seen that comment come up twice now about the mid-card title, and I disagree. And the reason I disagree is because NXT does a better job of any other promotion of having storylines away from the title picture altogether. Like, you have meaningful storylines with the women's division that have nothing to do with the title, and I think that's important.
Much to your point, much like one of the stories that's developing right now between Jada Parker of OTM and, Lord, I said I was going to remember her name, the new young lady who is with
with the D'Angelo family.
Yeah, her name
I can't think of the name either.
But they had their story is starting to be told, and the Battle Royal was used to help push that over, which I thought was awesome. So there are a lot of great stories that are happening, and perhaps nobody.
Adriano Rizzo.
Thank you, Rizzo. I think that NXT and TNA really do the best jobs of telling overall stories in their women's divisions, such that a story doesn't have to be told around a title for us to care. And I think that we're really seeing that in NXT.
I think it's a really great era.
We saw it with Gigi and JC, Roxanne and Kiana. There's been a ton that got a lot of TV time too.
Tiffany and Fallon Henley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of good things happening. What do we got next?
Let's see. The other big piece coming out of NXT last night were the semifinals for the Dusty Rhodes Classic. We saw 2 tag matches happen. We saw the LWO take on Chase University last night in a great tag match. The LWO, they have tapped into something. I think it was 2 weeks ago where they had that jaw-dropping launch from the second rope all the way out, it seemed like, to the stratosphere. Something that we hadn't seen before, a viral moment. And then they had a great match on Friday night with Humberto and Garza And now they're turning around in a great match here for the Dusty Classic. This is a good time for the LWO right now. And so they will be taking on the winners of what I thought was an incredible match, Malik Blade, Idris Enofe against Trick and Mello. Trick and Mello get the win on that one. And so those two teams will be going to the semifinals. And I guess the big question now is, what do we make of Trick and Mello as a team, since we found out that Trick will now be getting his NXT title shot at Vengeance Day, and he could be doing double duty if Trick and Mello make their way to the finals?
I mean, I think this can it's going to tell a good story. It can either go incredibly wrong where he loses one or both, or it can go incredibly right where he wins both, and then that's going to cause Mello to feel some sort of way. Because I kind of think I've been using like a lot of track references lately. It's just kind of like with track meets, right? You have the people who like they just do one thing, like they're a 100-meter runner, which is typically not the case. When you do a track meet and you're a sprinter, usually they do the 1, 2, sometimes the 4 if you're that good, both relays, and you might even throw in the long jump, right? And if you're even better, you can get to the state championships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like you're always prepared for all those things. If you're just doing the one thing, and you lose it, it's like, oh, that's cute. But if you can do both, I think it really adds prestige, and it also is like it puts a little extra on his name if that's where the story goes. Like, because imagine if he wins both. Who else has done that? And then you as the friend, because let's also be honest, Mello in the storyline, it feels like he definitely thinks he's better than Trick. He definitely thinks he's the LeBron in the situation. But now if Trick is doing the LeBron stuff, the LeBron, the Kobe and the MJ stuff all in one, he playing when he's sick, he's doing all this stuff, then who's really the LeBron in this whole thing? It's going to be more Trick. And the person who thought they were LeBron's going to feel away. And that's kind of where the story might play out. But, I'm for it. And I like how they did the little cliffhanger. I think it works well for a possible story.
Well, the last champ was Keith Lee, right? For that brief period of time. So I can, I can see a space where that 2-title Trick thing happens, and because they can definitely print.
That just sounds good.
Yeah, you can print T-shirts with that. But unfortunately, when something has legs and starting to catch fire, because a lot of people were buzzing about that promo with Corbin and Braun, I now have to believe that they are built to win this entire thing. Whatever that dynamic is with that odd pairing, I have to believe they're built to win this entire thing. So I think something happens online, but it would be nice for Mello to get Grand Slam because he's already flirting with SmackDown, and that would be a nice feather in the cap before he eventually goes on. So I really don't know how they get this story over with by Stand and Deliver, because that's where it's going to culminate. And I don't know at this point, the way things are playing out, I don't know that it needs a title to tell the story.
Yeah, I think my original thought was that it would go to Stand and Deliver. My second thought was that somehow they'd wrap this story up by Vengeance Day so that Trick could win the title at Stand and Deliver. Now it seems evident that they are going the route of breaking them up. This feels very much like wrestling historians might remember this, or you might have heard about this. It's giving me Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage. It's giving me that Mega Powers breakup and how lengthy that went before we finally went, strangely enough, to a February event, almost to the date, where they ended up in a tag match that turned out into a breakup. And it was a nasty breakup that led to Mania. This is feeling like that. And I think Trick and Mello make it to the finals. I think they lose the finals, or flip side, they win the finals, but but Mello will not let Trick win that championship. He will not. And I think it'll be a full-on turn. Now, the other way this could go, which could actually get crazy, is if Trick wins the title, Trick wins the title, Melo's turning on him. No questions asked. No, I mean, even if they win, because I believe, my memory serves me correctly, the first Dusty Cup winners were Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. And not long after they won that, Samoa Joe turned on Finn Balor. So I think it's highly possible. There are a lot of scenarios where this works out, but I think one thing we can say at the end of Vengeance Day is they're turning on each other. That's happening.
You think that's gonna happen
Melo's
in
gonna do it.
Vengeance? You don't think like they're both
Absolutely.
gonna get to main roster to turn on each other?
No.
No. Let me throw a curveball. Is there a space that exists that Trick turns on Melo?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Because Trick, here, the problem here is Trick has been the nice guy, and Trick has been the friend who, you know, I just see the best in you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the challenge with this is that Trick is supposed to be street smart. So how the street smart guy doesn't see that Melo is playing him is kind of wild right now. That's kind of wild.
Well, because it's no different than, I mean, somebody made a Sopranos reference. It's no different because when you think that somebody's part of the team, you're often not looking at them or that person being the enemy or the op, because they know all the information, like they know all the plays, they like, you know, they're operating. So you're never kind of looking at it like, oh, that person's not rooting for me. Right. So it kind of plays in like human nature type of thing. Even if you are street savvy, like how many times oftentimes the rat is the person who's in the family. Like, you know, oftentimes the person who's giving or the snitch or is the person who actually is the one who is the closest to you. So you wouldn't think that because it's just so like, oh, wait, that could never happen. Like that's my family or that's my whatever. So I think it definitely plays into the human nature of it, because you can't spend your life always looking behind your back. You always figure like you're always hoping there's that one person where it's like, okay, I can breathe around this person. So I think that's where Trick falls into, where it's like, oh, I'm street smart to get around everybody else, but this is my boy, this is my homie. He would never do that, or he would never, you know, insert whatever. He would never sleep with my wife, and now, you know, he's the stepfather to your wife and kids. I like throwing the swerve on you, Bart. I love throwing the swerve and just seeing your eyes, like the imagination of what I say going into your head, and then the shock, and then your eyes, your visual. It just really makes me happy. It really does.
This is where we are. This is where we are.
I just hope they get it over with, because there's going to be so much more money in the reunion whenever it happens.
Well, the reunion, I mean, I imagine that Stand and Deliver is going to be the swan song for Melo. I mean, it's his swan song, win or lose after that, because he's been on SmackDown too much for us to ignore.
Right.
You know?
Like, so, you know, that's where he's going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something.
I agree. What do we got next?
Well, a big congratulations is in order to Queen Aminata, who is signed with AEW / Ring of Honor. Now, we don't have all of the terms of this signing, but I did confirm with her that she is signed, which is pretty awesome. She has been super popular in the indies over the last couple of years, really making some headway in a lot of places. Had the chance to work with her in Battle Slam. She's also the inaugural All-Caribbean Wrestling Women's Champion. She has done so much. She even had a great tour over in Japan. And many thought actually 2023 was going to be the breakout year for her, but she I can't talk. She succumbed to injury, and she has recovered. And in her recovery, she has landed some great time with Ring of Honor and AEW. You saw her on Dynamite a couple of weeks ago in the debut match against Mariah May. She's had some incredible showings over on Ring of Honor last week, winning a fatal four-way that involved Lady Frost, Trisha Dora, Diamante. It was incredible. So I'm really, really excited. Hold on, pull that on. Y'all, I feel like I'm being trolled in these moments, but I have to address this.
Oh my God, I have such a good graphic for this. I can't wait for you to do this the rest of the year because I have a good graphic that I need to tell Dylan about. Anyway,
she is not doomed, and here's why I say she is not doomed. I really want, for those of you who at some point feel compelled enough, and actually,
before you do that, read the comment for the people who are just listening.
Sorry, thank you. The comment from MDB999 says in reference to Queen Aminata, says, "Good for her, but she's doomed. Tony Khan hates women and black people. LMAO." Those are the words of MDB999. Let me respond to that and say, I really wish that Ring of Honor actually offered like a 30-day trial. I'm not sure that they do, but I really wish that they did, because everybody who believes that Tony Khan doesn't like women and women's wrestling, you need to go watch Ring of Honor, because the difference between Ring of Honor and AEW relative to women's wrestling is like night and day. There were so many women's matches just this past week alone, and it's a regular thing. It's not like it's just a one-time thing. Women's wrestling is very prominently featured. In fact, there's going to be an 8-woman tag coming this week on Ring of Honor that involves Queen Aminata, the Renegades, and several others. So there's some really great things happening with Ring of Honor and how they are handling their women's division. I do wonder if there's a separate creative team for that. Why won't he put them on AEW television? That's not my fish to fry. What I can say, though, is the truth of it is you can find this great wrestling on Ring of Honor. Maybe he does it so that you will pay to watch. I'm not mad at that. Truth be told, Athena is one of the top 10 women's wrestlers in the world. She's been number 1 on Lorena's list for the last 2 months. By the way, go check out Lorena's list here from Women's Wrestling Talk. And there's a reason for that, because of what she has done behind that paywall. So it's worth going to check it out. She's had some incredible matches. So I do think that Queen Aminata is in a great, great place. And who's to say what won't happen in 2024 in AEW with women's wrestling? But I do know for sure, Ring of Honor, women's wrestling is popping over there.
There it is. Seti said, do you have anything to add or say or talk about, get off your chest?
Nah. Actually, I take that back. I take that back. Now you brought up the Reina list, and I'm trying to figure out when we're going to do these rankings again. But if you saw the Reina list and you saw any peculiar omissions from that list, I asked you to sound off on Twitter at Women's Wrestling Talk, and make sure you CC me on the ad too. At CEWD_SAYS. If you see any names that should have been on the list that weren't included, I want to be included in your desire for the next list. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'll say about that.
Oh boy.
Here is the reigning list that Seti said is in question. Shout out to Black Wrestling Alliance. We are partnering with them. We have the reigning list, which drops every month. So here's our top 10 rankings. And there's going to be something that's coming down the pipes in the next 2 to 3 months that is going to be huge for women's wrestling that I think is going to be a good thing for us all. So here we go. I'll read it for you guys who are listening. So number 10.
No, let them go see. Let them go see.
Oh, yes. Go to our social media at WWT Talk Pod to check it all out. So this is our Reina's list that Seti said is questioning even though he voted on it.
Tell them how. Tell them how I voted originally.
You can't vote like that, Seti said. Like you're an adult. You know better.
No, that's not how this works. When you have a voting system, this is my vote, not yours. I can vote however I want. This is America. I can vote exactly how I want to vote.
Some doves. This is great. This is
wow. Well, another one is going to be coming down the pipe in February. along with a special Black History Month edition of some stuff as well. So, and anything else you want to get off your chest? That he
That
said.
was it. That was all I wanted to get off my chest. But I mean, you guys try to bury me so much, but still I rise. You know, Black History Month's
Still I
right around the corner.
rise.
Black History Month's right around the corner, and my dreams will come to fruition.
He was special.
Wow. Well, two quick things before we go. On a sad note, today is actually the 1-year anniversary of the passing of Jay, who passed away very tragically in a car accident a year ago today. I'll never forget receiving that news. It felt crazy. And it's really marked a very interesting year in terms of losses in the sport. We never thought we'd see him gone or Bray Wyatt. But that was 2023. So certainly we're still thinking about the Briscoe family, Ring of Honor, AEW. A lot of people are still hurting with his loss. And then on a slightly different note, Dark Side of the Ring is coming back. There was one point we thought it might have been canceled and things like that, but it is certainly one of the biggest shows for Vice TV. Season 5 is coming back, and season 5 will return in March, is what we're told. No idea yet of what the shows will consist of, but you can only imagine the topics that will end up on there. Season 4 was pretty powerful. It started with Chris Candido and his wife slash girlfriend Sunny, and we kind of saw how that kind of played out. And it ended with Marty Jannetty, which was also a wild one, and had a lot of really interesting shows in between for this last season. So it'll be interesting to see who makes season 5 of Dark Side of the Ring. As we get more news on that, of course, we will let you know.
We definitely would. And I'm also trying to look for this graphic because I forgot to put it in. But go and check out Fight TV. We had an interview with Izzy. Really great interview. I mean, if you guys are not familiar with her, she was, it's so crazy that she's like 16 years old. You're familiar, you've seen her with Bailey on WWE a bunch of times. Now as a wrestler, if she's not with WWE within the next 3 years, I mean, that's a story. That's a story in itself. That's already being written. So great interview with her. So definitely check that out on Fight TV as well. So yeah, so many things going down the pipe. But yeah, I think we're good. I think Seth has gotten everything off his chest. Right?
Actually, did you guys see the? I'm surprised we didn't talk about it formally, but did you guys see the Grayson Waller flare up on the Australian news channel?
Yes.
There's a lot of people that are taking that so, I guess, actual, where I just look at it like Grayson Waller working the crowd. Am I wrong in saying that? I don't feel like he was really upset. I think that's just him playing into his character, creating another viral moment, if you would.
Well, it's 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other, because it reminded me of an interview that happened several years ago involving Vader and The Undertaker over in Saudi Arabia, I believe is where it was. A similar situation happened where, they were trying to kind of play up things, and Vader got very offended and, popped the host, and it was a thing. What I will say to that end is I think that media in general have to put respect on the name of pro wrestling. I think it is nobody, when a movie star comes in, nobody tries to, get them to act or do things, particularly if you're there to promote a movie. And these guys were there to promote a massive show where they're looking to have 70,000 people. Don't attempt to disrespect the art of what they do by thinking some random person can just take a finisher. Like that's bad. And so I just think that, I don't know if they did that on purpose or not, but I think most media knows, this is not the place to ask that kind of question.
I think too, to play devil's advocate, it's kind of one of those things that if they don't know, like, so for instance, I have a lot of comedian friends, right? Oftentimes, they get asked, tell a joke. That's not how it works.
Right.
And then they get asked that question often. But for me, because I love the art of stand-up comedy. I watch every single thing that's out there. I don't really frequent the like I used to, but I have a lot of comedian friends that I'm very much aware of that. Just the same difference of I have a lot of wrestler friends. So I'm very much aware that, when somebody says it's fake, I can then go and essentially be that, not everybody's going to have a conversation with the wrestler, but I can also be that advocate and say, well, no, it's not. And here are the reasons why. So not necessarily giving the media that, pass, but I think there has to be sometimes the grace that people assume that everybody knows everything that's going on because social media and everything is around us. But I also think it's also made us in our silos that you don't realize that there's other things going on. So it's kind of, and if you educate that person, you pull them aside and say, hey, this is why this was wrong and X, Y, and Z, and then they still proceed to be an ass, and that's when you can proceed to roast them or do whatever. But I feel like just assuming everything, regardless of that media personality did their homework as far as this is what this person's about, but doesn't know wrestling, because there's so much more to wrestling than that meets the eye if you're just a casual watcher, or if you're a person that's like, oh, we're going to just interview this today. So kind of giving that grace and not saying that person made that mistake or not, but I think it just applies to a lot of different things. Whereas society right now, and maybe we could take a look at the Ash by Elegance thing where people literally lost their ish on social media saying that she was like robbing Tony Storm. And it's like, it's just exhausting. I feel like it's a lot. There's you're making a lot out of nothing sometimes.
But I agree to a point. To that end, though, you've got certain things we expect out of social media people. Like they're not trained media professionals, and
True.
we don't see them asking LeBron James to just dunk a ball. We don't see them randomly asking baseball players, oh, hit a home run right now, or a football player, go throw this. Like they don't do that to other sports. And I think that's kind of the issue to assume, when a boxer shows up, you don't ask him to throw a punch. Like it's
well, here's the thing. Here's the difference. LeBron James, Beyonce, Drake, you could do Charlotte Flair, Roman Reigns. They're not interviewing with everybody. Right? So the people that they do interview with, the likelihood of the questions that they're going to be asked, they're going to be asked a certain type of questions. So then the people who interview, I mean, there have been times on the red carpet, for instance, when I was working a red carpet, where you get a list of people who's going to be on the red carpet, and then you have a bunch of people who they just appeared, right? I don't know. I've never seen this person before. I don't have time to look up their stuff. I'm just have to, and a professional person usually has a good 10, 15, 20 questions in their back pocket that they can use as evergreen, and it doesn't seem like whatever. So, I mean, yes, I agree with you, but it's also kind of one of those things where, obviously we have Dylan, who's not here today, by the way. So Dylan, I don't know where you're at, but we have Dylan who, reps for Australia, and we have a lot of Australian folks who watch our show. But that doesn't mean everybody, because I mean, I get questions all the time about wrestling land saying, oh, I have women's wrestling time. So wait, you're a wrestler? Nah, that's not what it is. But I get both sides. I get both sides, but I don't know.
I guess I just figured since it was an Australian based show and all there's from Australia, that he probably knew them, or at least is familiar with the programming, where it was like not planned, but he was just like playing it up. That was the way I saw it. But I can see how it also can be very disrespectful.
And we don't know. It could have been planned. We don't know. I mean, if he's not upset by it, then why should we? And we'll see how it all plays out. Twitter or one of these publications will let us know.
Exactly.
With that being said, I think that's
yeah, we hit it all.
Study said. Is there anything else that you want to get off your chest today?
No,
Okay.
I'm satiated. I blame myself for uploading that video, but that all that to say that that's one of the reasons I hate California Love. That's one of the reasons.
Well, here we are. With that being said, Seti said, so you can go and pound the town again. Where can everybody find you?
I have no rebuttal to that. You can find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Said Says, at CEDD_SAYS. And on the gram, it's That Is the Answer. Check out my website, CedricDWelton.com. Any journalistic efforts will be there. I write for Daily DDT as well as this platform. We're about a week out from the Royal Rumble, and this trio will be in the building. So if you see us around the streets of St. Pete, Tampa, give us a holler. Let us know any recommendations you have. If you're a local out there, if there's anything to do, I'm pretty sure we'll be.
Please do, because at the way that everything is going, it looks like I'm either going to be driving to Orlando or Miami to finish off the tour in Florida. So if you guys have any recommendations of things to do in St. Pete's, please let me, because it don't look like there's none. So yeah.
Filter those recommendations, and we'll make sure that we filter it to one of TK's 3 phones, so she receives it directly.
I mean, you have the direct line, said he said. You should count yourself.
Of course I do. Of course I do. But there are not many people as blessed as I. You know.
Yourself, Professor. What are you gonna do? It is what it is. Team is strong. Professor, little Professor. I feel like it's like it's almost like it's an off day.
Oh,
I don't see
no.
him jumping in the background.
No, listen. I can actually breathe and focus. Which he absolutely loves coming interrupting shows. Like, he loves it. It's just,
you guys should have a show. You guys should have like a watch along show.
We might have to. That actually might be fun, because he's really getting into wrestling right now, which is good. But you guys can find me at Bonnerfied across all of the socials. You can check out my commentary work with both IWE and Southern Honor Wrestling on IWTV. We just dropped a big show from Southern Honor in the last day or so. So you guys can check that out. Also, and I'm sure the IWE show will show up either this week or maybe early next week. Also, you can check out my commentary work with All Caribbean Wrestling on their YouTube page, with the Nightmare Factory on their YouTube page, and my work with Ashe at Ashe Wrestling. And we've got a big show coming up in February. A few big shows are coming up in February that I'll be telling you guys about as we get closer to February.
There it is. And like, it's so crazy. It feels like we just started 2024 and we're already, less than 2 weeks to February? Less than Royal Rumble, and then it's just WrestleMania, and then SummerSlam, and then 2025. Like,
that's it.
That's
how it goes.
Well, it's an interesting thing. With that being said, you can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. We have, like I said, the Izzy interview that just dropped. You can also check out our interview with Jody Threat that dropped last week. We have a couple more interviews and some things coming down for Black History Month that's going to be happening with Women's Wrestling Talk, and a couple other projects as well. So a lot of great things. Shout out to all the promotions and all the people involved with that. And with that being said, you can see all our social media at WWT Talk Pod, www.talk.com. A revamp to the website with some new things happening as well. But other than that, thank you guys for tuning in. For our newcomers, shout out to obviously our informational officer, Bosa, MDB 999, cousin Ron in the building, Eric also in the chat, Barry Monkey 99. Thank you guys for all chatting with us, giving us your opinion. Ladies Wrestling Griot, all you guys for coming in. Shadow Wrangler, all you guys for coming in. We really appreciate it. We are on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching WWT Live, Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Till next time, guys. Ciao.
Hey, I'm Renee Paquette, and you are watching Women's Wrestling Talk.